You believe that your intelligence makes you immune to brainwashing. You look at cult psychology, extremist movements, and toxic corporate cultures, and you assume the people trapped inside them are simply naive. This is a fatal miscalculation. The most sophisticated practitioners of social engineering in history do not target the uninformed. They target the brilliant, the idealistic, the highly aware mind that secretly hungers for meaning. Carl Jung uncovered the exact psychological mechanism that makes geniuses willingly surrender their sovereignty to a smiling stranger with a microphone. Today, you decode the architecture of mass control and why your unintegrated golden shadow is the only handle a charismatic operator needs to own your mind entirely. Read that again, slowly, because that single observation explains every cult, every toxic guru, every messianic CEO, and every ideological movement that has ever swallowed a brilliant mind whole. The mechanism is not stupidity. The mechanism is avoidance. And the system you live in is engineered to keep you avoiding the one thing that would make you free. You were taught that manipulation is something done to the weak. You were taught that cults recruit the lost, the broken, the unintelligent. This narrative is not just wrong. It is a deliberate misdirection. Because if you believe manipulation only happens to others, you will never inspect the precise psychological hook that is already lodged inside you. Machiavelli observed it with surgical clarity. Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived. Notice the word, allow. The deception is not forced. It is permitted, welcomed, even craved. And here is the part that will make you pause. The deception you are most vulnerable to is not the one that promises you safety. It is the one that promises you greatness. Because somewhere inside you, there is a version of yourself you have never been allowed to become. A capable, commanding, luminous version that society quietly trained you to suppress. Jung gave this suppressed magnificence a name. He called it the golden shadow. And every charismatic leader, every cult architect, every manipulative authority figure in your life has been a magnet for that exact buried gold. You think you are following them. You are not. You are following a reflection of yourself you do not yet know how to hold. This is the forbidden insight the system needs you to never integrate. Because the moment you understand projection, mind control loses its grip. The moment you reclaim your golden shadow, no guru, no boss, no movement, no ideology can own you. You become structurally immune, sovereign, untouchable in a way no argument can dismantle. If these ideas resonate with you, hit that subscribe button for more top-tier content. Also, drop a "My Crown" in the comments so I know you're ready. Let's dive in. Everyone has heard of the dark shadow, the rage, the envy, the cruelty you were taught to disown. Almost no one has heard of its mirror twin, the golden shadow, the suppressed brilliance, the buried authority, the forbidden magnificence inside you that was never allowed to surface because the people raising you, schooling you, employing you needed a manageable version of you, not a sovereign one. Carl Jung observed something devastating. The contents of the unconscious do not vanish when you refuse them. They get projected outward onto someone else. And the more powerful the suppressed quality, the more powerful the figure you will attach it to. This is the central mechanism of cult psychology. This is the hidden engine behind every messianic leader, every charismatic founder, every spiritual teacher who somehow ends up surrounded by intelligent, idealistic followers, handing over their savings, their bodies, and their judgment. You did not fall for them because you were uninformed. You fell for them because they were carrying something that belonged to you. Stop for a moment and calculate the energy you have spent admiring people, the mentor you idealized, the thinker whose every word felt like revelation, the leader who seemed to embody everything you wished you could be. Notice the pattern, the quality you saw in them, the gravity, the conviction, the unapologetic command, was never theirs alone. It was a piece of your own unowned potential, reflected back at you through a charismatic mirror. And the reason it felt so magnetic, so impossible to look away from, is precisely because it was yours. This is the uncomfortable truth at the heart of dark psychology manipulation. The hook is not the manipulator. The hook is the gold inside you that you refuse to claim. And until you face that, you will continue to outsource your crown to strangers. Now understand how social engineering operationalizes this. A skilled manipulator does not begin by attacking you. He begins by reflecting you. He studies the precise contours of your golden shadow and embodies them. The conviction you lack, the certainty you crave, the mission you secretly want to belong to. He becomes for a moment the externalized symbol of everything you have been told not to be. This is why intelligent people are the prime target. The brighter the mind, the more suppressed greatness it carries. The deeper the idealism, the larger the projection it casts. A charismatic leader does not waste time on the unaware. He hunts the highly aware, the introspective, the philosophically hungry, because their golden shadow is enormous, unclaimed, and radiating like a beacon. The first phase is recognition. He sees you. He names what no one else has named in you. He validates your hidden conviction that you were meant for something larger. And in that moment, your nervous system makes a catastrophic miscalculation. It concludes that he is the source of the meaning you just felt. He is not. You are. You felt your own buried magnitude move for the first time, and you attributed the movement to him. That misattribution is the doorway. Once you walk through it, the architecture of mind control assembles itself around you with terrifying efficiency. The persona, the public mask you have always worn, gets gently dismantled. He becomes the only one who sees the real you. The persona, your social armor, is severed from its anchor in your independent identity and rebuilt around him. You begin to filter reality through his frame. His approval becomes your compass. His displeasure becomes your dread. The crown you handed him is now the leash he holds. And here is the strategic horror of it. You do not feel imprisoned. You feel found. This is where the second mechanism activates, and almost no one understands it. Once your golden shadow has been captured, your dark shadow becomes a weapon turned against you. Watch this carefully, because it is the engine that keeps brilliant minds locked inside cult psychology long after the warning signs appear. Every human carries suppressed darker traits: envy, doubt, selfishness, rage. The qualities you were taught make you a bad person. A skilled operator knows this. And at the precise moment your devotion begins to waver, he activates what can be called the shame lever. He surfaces your dark shadow and frames it as proof that you are unworthy of the light he offers. Your doubt becomes evidence of your spiritual immaturity. Your hesitation becomes evidence of your ego. Your boundary becomes evidence of your selfishness. Notice the trap. He owns your light, and he weaponizes your dark. You are caught between two projections, neither of which belongs to him. The light was always yours. The dark was always human. But in his frame, both become reasons to surrender more of yourself. This is why intelligent people stay. Not because they are deceived about him. They stay because they are deceived about themselves. They believe their doubt is a flaw rather than a signal. They believe their resistance is a wound rather than a compass. They have been taught through Machiavellian strategy, executed with smiling precision, that their own psyche is the enemy. And this same mechanism operates far outside cults. It operates in toxic workplaces, where a charismatic founder makes you feel that questioning him is a betrayal of the mission. It operates in ideological movements, where doubt is reframed as moral failure. It operates in relationships, where your discomfort is reframed as your defect. The structure is identical. The golden shadow is captured. The dark shadow is weaponized. And you are left negotiating with a version of yourself that was never accurate to begin with. The question is no longer whether you have ever been touched by this. The question is how many times and in how many domains, and how much of your sovereignty is still scattered across the figures you once idealized. Now we move into the deeper layer. The architecture of mind control does not stop at projection. It extends into archetypal hijack. Jung mapped the great inner figures that live in every psyche: the magician, the ruler, the sage, the warrior. These are not metaphors. They are functional centers of authority inside you, and when you do not consciously inhabit them, someone else will inhabit them for you. A cult leader does not merely receive your projection. He occupies your inner throne. He becomes the ruler you never authorized yourself to be. He becomes the magician whose interpretations you trust over your own perception. He becomes the sage whose voice overrides the quiet voice inside you that has been trying to warn you for months. The seat of authority inside your own mind has been vacated, and a stranger is sitting in it. This is what Machiavellian strategy understands at the highest level. Power is never granted. Power is occupied. If you do not occupy the throne of your own psyche, the throne does not stay empty. It is filled by a boss, by a guru, by an ideology, by a partner, by an algorithm. The vacancy itself is the vulnerability, and here is the precise reason brilliant minds are so susceptible. Intelligence without inner sovereignty is a beautifully built house with no one home. The lights are on, the architecture is impressive, but the seat of command is empty, and any sufficiently charismatic visitor can walk in and claim it. Your IQ does not protect you. Your awareness does not protect you. Your education does not protect you. Only one thing protects you: the conscious, deliberate daily act of inhabiting your own authority. The collective unconscious, Jung understood, is full of figures hungry to be lived. If you will not live them, you will worship them in someone else. There is no third option. So how do you reclaim what you have scattered? How do you take the crown back? Not through argument, not through confrontation, not through exposing the manipulator, which only deepens his grip by making him the center of your attention. You reclaim sovereignty through a precise, internal, and almost silent operation. You take your projection back. The first move is recognition. You identify the figures, past and present, who have carried disproportionate weight in your psyche. The mentor you could never disagree with. The leader whose vision felt larger than your own. The partner whose approval organized your entire emotional weather. The thinker whose framework replaced your own thinking. In each case, you ask a single surgical question. What quality in them was I refusing to claim in myself? The conviction you saw in him is your conviction. The vision you saw in her is your vision. The authority you saw in them is your authority. They were not the source, they were the screen. And once you see the projection clearly, the screen loses its power. It becomes ordinary, human, flawed. Just another psyche, no larger than your own. The second move is integration. You begin to consciously inhabit the qualities you had outsourced, not performatively, not loudly, quietly. You make decisions without seeking the internalized voice of the figure you idealized. You trust your own perception when it contradicts the frame you were given. You allow yourself to be the ruler of your own life, the magician of your own meaning, the sage of your own counsel. The throne is occupied, the vacancy is closed, the hijack becomes structurally impossible. The third move is strategic detachment. You stop arguing with manipulators. You stop trying to convince toxic authorities. You stop investing energy in dismantling the figures you once idealized. Because the moment you take your projection back, they become irrelevant. Their charisma was always borrowed light. Once you reclaim it, they dim on their own. You do not need to fight them. You only need to stop feeding them. Withdraw the projection, and the spell collapses. This is the psychological immunity no charismatic figure can penetrate, not because you are armored, because you are full. There is no vacancy for them to occupy. Now picture the life of someone who has completed this reclamation. They walk into rooms differently. They do not seek the most charismatic figure to orbit. They do not idealize, they observe. When a magnetic leader speaks, they feel the pull, recognize it instantly as their own projected gold, and quietly reabsorb it. The leader senses this immediately. Manipulators always do, and they move on because there is no handle to grip. This person is not cold, they are not cynical, they are not paranoid, they are simply whole. Their golden shadow is integrated, their dark shadow is acknowledged. Their inner archetypes are inhabited consciously. They carry their own authority with such steadiness that no external figure can destabilize it. Toxic bosses lose their leverage. Cult psychology bounces off them. Ideological movements cannot recruit them because they no longer need to belong to anything larger than themselves. They already are. This is what inner sovereignty looks like in practice. Not aggression, not rebellion, not contrarianism, a quiet, structural impossibility of being captured. The sovereign mind is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not need followers, validators, or witnesses. It is anchored in something no one else can grant and no one else can revoke. And here is the paradox that Machiavelli and Jung both understood from different angles. The person who has reclaimed their projections becomes more genuinely influential than the charismatic figures who once captured them. Not because they seek influence, because wholeness has its own gravity. People are drawn to integrated psyches the way they are drawn to warmth in winter. But the integrated person does not collect followers. They reflect each person back to themselves, intact, sovereign, uncaptured. They become the opposite of a cult leader. They become a mirror that returns your projections to you instead of consuming them. This is the highest expression of psychological immunity. You do not just refuse to be captured, you refuse to capture others. You break the cycle entirely. You came into this aware that something had been wrong. You sensed, in moments you could not quite name, that you had handed pieces of yourself to figures who did not deserve them. A teacher, a leader, a partner, a movement, a version of yourself you outsourced to someone with better lighting. Now you understand the mechanism, the golden shadow projected outward, the persona dismantled and rebuilt around an external figure, the shame lever weaponizing your darkness against your light, the archetypal throne occupied by a stranger, the architecture of mind control, mapped clearly, no longer mysterious, and you understand the way out, not through argument, through reclamation. You take the projection back, you inhabit the throne, you become the ruler, the magician, the sage of your own life. You become structurally impossible to capture because there is no longer a vacancy inside you for anyone to occupy. This is inner sovereignty. This is the quiet crown. This is the end of every cult, every guru, every toxic authority's grip on your mind, executed not through war, but through wholeness. If you understood this, if something in you recognized the pattern and refused to look away, comment the words, "My crown," below. Not as a slogan, as a declaration, as the first conscious act of reclamation. Let it mark the moment you stopped outsourcing your magnificence to strangers. And subscribe, Because what we explore here is not available in the algorithmic mainstream. This is the rarely taught psychology of sovereignty, the decoding of social engineering, dark psychology manipulation, and the Machiavellian strategy that has shaped every system you have ever moved through. If you are ready to stop being captured and start inhabiting your own authority, this is the only place that explores it with this depth. And whatever you do, don't stop now. The on-screen video matters more than you think. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. I'll see you there. See what others miss. Know what others fear. Become who others can't.